Hello and welcome to Lakeshore Academy. My name is Tina and I'm glad you're with me today. As you saw in my description, we are going to be talking about the 4 dys. And many of you are probably saying, what in the world is Tina talking about? What are these 4 dys? Well, that's what I call them. And I hope I pronounce every one of them correctly. The 4 dys is dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia. Those are the 4 dys. And I'm going to break down and explain to you what each one is. The dyslexia, most of you have heard that. That's pretty common. We're hearing about dyslexia more and more every day. Dyslexia is basically just a learning disability in which a child or an adult typically has trouble with reading accurately and fluently. They have problem with reading comprehension, and they also tend to have problem with spelling and writing. Now, as I told you before, my son has all the dys. He has all 4 of them. Different levels of them, but he has all of them. So I have quite a bit of experience with all these subjects. That's why I'm going to be doing some videos showing you what I do with him in particular. Now, my daughter just has one. She has this, and I hope I say it right, dyscalculia. And basically, it's just a math learning disability. It's a learning disability in which the child or an adult has difficulty understanding number-related concepts or using symbols or functions needed for success in math. So basically, you have a child, if your child has dyscalculia, your child tends to leave off a lot of steps when they're doing math. Say, for example, when they're doing long division, they might leave out a couple of steps, or they might even forget the steps altogether. They have a very hard time with following the symbols and steps. Like sometimes, like with the aspect of the long division, you not only have to do division within a long division problem, but you have to also keep going back and forth, reversing back and forth between multiplication, division, and then subtraction. So a lot of time a child with dyscalculia, they not only have problem with the regular number concepts, but they also have problems with switching from symbol to symbol. They have difficulty understanding or following the steps rather. They're very smart, very intelligent, but sometimes they just forget the steps, or they leave certain signs and symbols off which are important when you're doing those types of problems. So, but they can be successful. You just have to do different methods in order to help them understand. Then, for you guys, they have this other dys is called dysgraphia. Now, dysgraphia is a learning disability in which writing is very, very difficult for these children. Usually a child with dysgraphia, their handwriting is so messy. It's very, very messy. It's not legible. In most cases, they can't even figure out what they wrote. It's not that they're not trying. It's not that they're not intelligent, because 9 times out of 10 these children are very, very intelligent, and they surpass in other subjects, like surpass grade level, their particular grade level in other subjects. It's just that in this particular aspect with this dysgraphia, they tend to they have a hard time getting what they think onto paper. Many of these children also struggle with putting their thoughts on paper. They also have children with dysgraphia usually have problem with age-appropriate speed. And what I mean when I say age-appropriate speed, it's dealing with writing. When they're writing, they tend to write very, very slowly. And you're like, come on, this is easy. Come on, you can write. Go ahead and write it down. They tend to write slowly. Even though they're writing slowly, their information is still not legible, which they're trying super duper hard, but they just can't seem to get their thoughts onto paper and make it legible. And it's a known condition, and it's very, very difficult. But with children like that, they tend to thrive when using electronics, with typing their thoughts out, typing things out, which is proven very beneficial. Using apps like on Apple, they have an app called Dyslexia Aid, in which my son uses a lot. They also have different things in which you can type things out and you can email it to your email and print it out, which my son also uses a lot. So he types a lot of things out. My son writes as well. His handwriting has improved greatly with the techniques that I've been using. However, he still has a problem with sometimes putting his thoughts onto paper. He's very expressive with his speech. You will never know, a child like this, you will never know that they have this situation until you put them in the situation in which they have to write. And then you can see it then. But using children that has dysgraphia, they are very, very, oh my goodness, they express themselves very well with words, with their words. But when it's time for them to put it in written form, that's when they have the trouble. So my son, like I said, uses a lot of the different apps for dyslexia. A dyslexia app, I think it's called, I got to look it up. But it's in the Apple store. You can look it up. It's very beneficial because he can actually talk to the telephone and say whatever he's trying to say, because he uses it for doing his reports. And he talks it out. He says what he needs to say, and the app actually types out or write out what he said. And then after that, I make him take that and I make him write it on paper, or he can type it out and then send it to me through email, or send it to the printer and print it out. Then the next one, the other dys, is the dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is something that is basically dealing with developmental coordination. It's a coordination disorder. Kids with dyspraxia, if I'm saying it correctly, they may have difficulty planning things and performing tasks that require fine motor skills, such as writing, hence the dysgraphia, tying their shoelaces, or even using buttons and zippers. So these children will have problems with the fine motor skills. If I'm saying it right, dyspraxia, they have problems with those fine motor skills, and that's basically what they do. They just have trouble with that in particular. And again, these children are very, very intelligent, very, very smart. They just have to do things a different way. They have to approach it from a different aspect. So I'm just going to recap what a little bit about dyslexia is. Oh, and another thing that I really want you guys to know, usually when a child has dyslexia, they usually have, it's not uncommon, let me say it like that, it's not uncommon for them to have more than one of these dys at a time. It's not something that's unheard of. It's not something that's uncommon. And especially with children that has autism, no matter what spectrum it is, usually a child that has autism that also has dyslexia, they also have another little side thing that goes on with that as well, that just makes them more unique as an individual. Like my son has high functional autism, but he also has dyslexia. He has a mild range. It depends on what we're working on in math. With dyscalculia, he also has dysgraphia, and he also has dyspraxia on certain things with fine motor skills. Now he's doing very well with, he still has problem with certain things. It depends on what fine motor skill that he has to use. And it usually deal with the coordination. You'll notice that a child that has dyspraxia, they tend to be labeled as the clumsy child because they all the time get hurt, or they all the time like fall and there's nothing there, but they fall on their shadow. Some people say they fall, they're clumsy and different stuff. It's not them. It's just their developmental way of the coordination. It's dealing with the disorder. So it's not anything that they're doing. It's not that they're clumsy. It's not that they're trying to get hurt or fall or trip over stuff. It's just that it's dealing with that particular disability. And once you be able to identify that your child has this, it makes it much, much more easier to be able to deal with it or cope with it rather, because you know that, oh, my child, this falls in line with that learning difference that my child has. And so you be able to find resources and work better within that certain category, or I don't like to put categories and brackets or whatever, but it's just information. The information helps you way, way more when you have background to know what's going on and why my child thinks this way on certain things or approach things in a different way. So that has proven to be so beneficial for me with my son, knowing all of these different aspects of his learning style, so that when I build curriculum or when I use curriculum or when I adjust different things that I'm doing, I adjust it to according to how he learns. And once I figure that out, everything start going 100 times better. So he's doing much better now. I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of my daughter, who doesn't have all of these learning disabilities. Like I said, they're totally opposites when they're dealing with the learning situation. But both of them had their own challenges within life, just like with learning different things, just like all of us do as well. But I'm so proud of both of them, because despite my son having these challenges, he has still done so well. He figures out how to do things in different ways. He is so super duper smart. He amazes me. He loves science and anything dealing with computer technology. So my point is this, is that no matter what learning style or what learning disability or differences that your child has, they can still be great, and they are great. You just figure out their learning style, and then you work with it, and then you just adjust the curriculum to fit that child's particular learning style. And that really, it will be a breakthrough for you in your homeschool, or if you're not homeschooling, for you helping your child in general, it will be a breakthrough. But I just wanted to break down and let you guys know the definition of these different things. So maybe you're at a point within your homeschool where you're actually trying to figure out, you're noticing some things, and you're trying to say, well, I don't know the name. I know something is different with their learning style, but I can't identify what that is. And I don't have the money to take my child to get all these different tests and different stuff. But I'm not saying I'm a medical doctor, because by no means I am not a medical doctor, but I'm just trying to give you information, and maybe this information can help you identify a situation in which you're in which it can possibly give you some kind of guidance in the way of saying, hey, I think my child may have dyslexia, or may have dyscalculia, or may have dysgraphia, or may have dyspraxia. And if you feel like that's what your child has, then you can go talk to your doctor, or you can just use some of the methods that's designed for those types of learning styles, and you might see a great improvement with your child. And I hope this helps. So again, this is Tina from Lakeshore Academy, just breaking down all the dys for you. Have a good day. Bye.